Yes, today we have talks with the composers. First is Eduardo Moguliansky. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, from Argentina. And my first question to you is, did you know the music before you wrote for it, or was it the first encounter for you?
Parkour music?
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
No, the first encounter was similar to finding aliens, or
okay.
something similar.
Okay.
Something completely out of this world.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
How would you describe these aliens? What was your impression of them?
The first thing that I remember was a young woman playing an instrument which was so extremely loud.
Mm-hmm.
And beautiful, but in a way that in Europe is completely unknown.
Mm-hmm.
It's the beauty of something, the beauty of a metal going through your body. It's this
okay.
violent body experience, which is on the verge between aesthetic and real experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not something that you see, it's something that attacks you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to jump directly to your piece from this. How did you use this in your piece? This brutality for you? This.
Well, in fact, this experience was so pointed, so clear that my idea was, how can we use that for others, and how can I use this physical aspect of this music in a way which can lead me to do something personal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was first think about, I'm talking about the Swana, which is, most of you know what it is, but it's a sort of a mixture between an oboe and a trumpet. It looks like a trumpet, it sounds like an oboe, and it's loud like 100 trumpets. And the fantastic thing about this instrument is that it is played always in a group. So this instrument has been confined to follow sort of a military tradition of playing outside. And also because this player was so proficient in the instrument, I thought, well, it might be a good idea to isolate this instrument, sort of befreit, liberate it from the dictatorship of the group, and put her on the spot. But this instrument, and this is the pathological thing about working in this project, is this instrument is very flexible. If you think about, for instance, an oboe, in an oboe, when you play it, you might be able to change the pitch, maybe half tone if you want, with your embouchure. But in the Swana is an amazing machine, and the player can change the pitch almost at will. The player, in this case, can change the pitch really. It depends a lot on the hearing. And this I didn't know. So my approach was to really, like no musician, I just devised an algorithm to generate all possible fingerings. And we came with more than 150 fingerings, from which I chose 70 something.
Mm-hmm.
And she gladly recorded all these fingerings. And I didn't know, and she didn't know, what would come of these fingerings. So it was just like, okay, can you do this? But there's a lot of influence of your muscles and influence of your breath, how the pitch will come. So we did this recording, and then the composition starts. Yes, like I give you sort of cards. These are your playing cards, or a puzzle, and devise a puzzle now with that. What do you do? So that was my work, and her work was to deal with this labyrinth of fingerings, and it's more of a torture machine than a musical piece.
Okay. So it's called Doppelporträt. So it has two parts.
Yeah.
Why do we have two parts first?
Well, you could have lots of different parts, because this instrument has so many facets that you could still explore. But there were two things that came to mind from the beginning, which was, one was that when you explore this myriad of fingerings, you find that the topology of the instrument is very irregular. You find lots of gaps in some place, and there are places where, like a fractal, there's a lot of detail, and you want to look inside. So, and this, of course, when you listen to 10 pitches which are very near to each other, but are maybe cents apart, they are different, but it's not so interesting, because we are not so well developed to hear all these differences. So the idea was, well, as in science, when you have two things that are very near and you want to explore the differences, you use something which is called interferometry. You make an interference between these two things, and you see an interference pattern. And this is what we hear as a beating, as a Schwebung. So the first part explores this phenomenon of Schwebung and of beatings. And it is actually a very constituent part of sona as it's used in Taiwan music, because in this marching situation of many sonas playing at the same time, what happens is it's a real heterophony, and even if they are very well-trained musicians, they are never in pitch. So you hear all the time these beatings in Taiwan. So I thought, well, it might be a good idea to isolate this phenomenon and say, let's hear what can we do about this thing. And the second piece deals with the other interesting aspect of sona, which is that in the moment where this instrument is again liberated from playing unisono and can play a different pitch from another sona, the sheer power and the art, how the spectrum is organized in the instrument, generates very, very clear combination tones. There are very few instruments which generate so clearly this phenomenon. So we did this in a workshop here 2 years, almost 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years ago. And we heard it there from the first time, and then I thought, well, that needs to be done. But of course, for the audience, it's very harmful thing to do, because combination tones, as you will hopefully not experience, but maybe only work when it's loud, because it's the way how your brain and your ear is reacting to the overexcitement of its sensory apparatus. So it's your it's a way where you hear a sound which is not there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice. It's a nice metaphor
Mm-hmm.
of hearing your own thoughts.
Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to say that I feel that you are really fascinated and really like deeply moved by the sound and by the power of this instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And the second is like, okay, so you definitely did a lot of. Yesterday we had the expression of artistic research on the sounds and stuff like that. But is there also with portrait? I also.
Well, why is the portrait? Because all these things happen if the instrument is not alone. So there is a second sauna, but it's not a real one. It's a virtual one.
Mm-hmm.
It's the recordings we made and with the video. So each time this virtual sauna plays, you see the original player with the sauna. So it is a portrait. It is in a way, it's like looking in a mirror. It's looking, seeing yourself in another position.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, by the way, I wanted to also say that you are always, please feel invited to ask questions at any given point, because, if you want to and if you have something to this. For now, for me, it's like, what do you think will, because you already said like it will be more of a like really aggressive way of hearing. What do you think will be the effect on the audience, or what do you, maybe even what do you hope will be the effect on the audience?
Well, I know what normally happens.
Okay.
And what happens is that many people close their ears.
Okay.
And I expect that, and it's okay. Everybody's allowed to do it.
Okay.
And it might even be wise to do it. But that is my invitation. Is that there's an interesting side effect of not doing it, which is that you get to experience something which you would normally not experience in the commodity of your house, which is to hear sounds that are only in your head. So this is a nice experience.
Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate, please, what with the sounds that are only in your head, like?
Well, when you play two sounds very loud,
yeah,
they generate this combination sound which are not there. If you go and record them, they are not there, but they are in your head.
Okay. I didn't know this.
It's your brain being able to synthesize the fundamental of the tone where it hears the overtones.
Okay.
So it's how, for instance, your telephone doesn't need to communicate any frequency beneath 400 hertz, because if a voice, you hear the fundamental anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how compression works, for example.
So we also have this TRAIECT as a very, I would still say, very special project. Is this the first time for you, like working this close and having this communication with artists, or do you usually work this close?
No, but in this case, I would say that it's a co-composition.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that you worked even more than I did.
Okay.
Let's say it's true, and it's a first time to write a piece which cannot be played by anyone else.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's really like a suit made perfectly for her and only for her.
Mm-hmm.
You could use the idea and do it again, but so this kind of very close collaboration is really new. Yeah.
Oh. Okay. So, what were the most important influences that because you said she worked more than you did, what were the most important influences that you said, like, that was the biggest impact of hers on you?
Well, marking my stupidity was the most obvious, obvious role. to say, because when you are when you're composing, there's this time stays still.
Mm-hmm.
You can stay in a measure for months if you want,
Mm-hmm.
if you can afford it. You start imagining that almost everything is possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
a player, a human being, has limitations,
Mm-hmm.
and you would assume that because she made a recording that everything would sound exactly the same
Mm-hmm.
every day for the rest of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
But the world is very flexible, and the instrument is very flexible,
Mm-hmm.
and it's amazing actually that they can play so well
Mm-hmm.
with this instrument, because it depends so much on the tones of your muscles,
Mm.
how much air you're using, and one thing that, because they normally play with a circular breathing,
Mm-hmm.
but this music is actually, in her words, is so frightening
Okay.
that there's not enough concentration to do the circular breathing. So there's this aspect of having to breathe, something which we all experience in these days,
Mm-hmm.
which is not nice to not be able to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
So this was something that she taught me, and well, many things.
If you were to write another piece for Pakuan or for Sono, what would you, as a learning, get into it, or would you start completely from new and try to forget what you learned, or what would be your next approach?
Well, Joachim said this, that you're always, Joachim, who said that you're always starting anew?
My teacher.
Okay, yeah. And there's something true about it, because for each piece you sort of need to devise a new
Mm-hmm.
system and everything. But I think I devoted lots of months to Pakuan,
Mm-hmm.
that I would leave a big pause before I do it.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Why would you leave a bigger pause? Because was so much demanding for you, or?
No, because I mean we need to acknowledge that the contact, the way to approach music and many things are, even if it's so enriching to do it, but it's really demanding, and it's not something that can be abstracted away. I'm sure that for all the musicians, and I know for you, sure, that being forced to work under these notations and so on is a very cruel thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I would not like to subject other people so often to this kind of cruelty. Of course, I could have thought about a way to avoid this cruel dictatorial position and say, well, you need to play by my rules, so here's my score and learn it.
Mm-hmm.
I could have done something different,
Mm-hmm.
but this idea needed notation.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mhm.
so it was either this or something completely different. So I hope that I could convince her that it was worth it.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Okay. Okay. We will hear the answer tomorrow. No,
Yeah.
Maybe not the answer, but questions from the audience.
Going back to the first question, which was it new for you, or was it almost already known? I would be interested, because you are freelance composer since many years, you do a lot of different projects. And yesterday we had a talk that problems are actually an essential part of this project. What you would like to say here, what could be better, what was for you problematic, which did not really work out? If you like to say something about this, I would be curious.
I think I could be better. So I would say that the most problematic things are always individual. So I don't think that there is an immanent thing in the organization which can be made better. I would say that this kind of projects in Corona times, involving flights around the world and laws around the world, are so complicated that for me it's just amazing that this is happening. And I know that maybe in 2 weeks it wouldn't happen. Mm-hmm. So, but of course this project was thought before Corona existed. I would say that it might be interesting to one thing that happens in this kind of project is, in my experience, that the composer writes and then the score is there, and you can either complain and not do it, and or do it. So there's this binary situation where you either follow the rules of the composer or you say, no, I don't follow it. And it might be interesting to, there's time, of course, to open a third way where composer does a first hand in of the idea with maybe 2 pages. Mm-hmm. And the players look at it and say, no.
Oh, this and not that.
This okay, this not. Mm-hmm. This tempo no. This okay. This, give me some time and I will learn it. Mm-hmm. Or I will try it. Or I tried it and it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So this might be an interesting idea to sort of middle way.
Okay. Anyone? Okay. Thank you so much.